How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to be discussing all about posting out of your unit. So it's something if you're looking to go and join the British Army, or you've been in sort of a few years or so, you may start to be looking at that sort of posting time. And if you're just joining up to the military, yes, you just need to get in and get concentrated and actually getting through basic training. But this will be in the not so distant future, because take it from my experience, time moves extremely fast as soon as you leave basic training and get into the actual field army. So basic training. So being an instructor, then you're sort of normally looking around. You would be a junior NCO to start off your sort of time as an instructor. Some people will do it as a junior NCO, pop back into the field army again, so back to their normal unit, and then they'll come to instructional life again as a senior NCO or indeed officers as well. But initially, that first sort of crack at the whip of being an instructor, you're normally looking at a corporal. Definitely within the infantry, I will tie this up in regards to the infantry because that's my sort of background and my experiences. However, the discussion here of being an instructor is universal for all sort of different corps cap badges within the British Army itself, and I probably would potentially argue as well same across all the different services whenever they go to be the instructor, to take up that instructor role. Right, so what I'm going to talk about is a few reasons why it's good, and a few reasons why people may be sort of reluctant to put themselves forward to go and be an instructor. Now, the reasons why, a big reason why I've got it here, massive exclamation marks in my notebook here on why it's good, is ever so much now, the British Army is very, very busy. So it doesn't really, I would argue, definitely all the sort of combat arms, you're going to be flat out in operational tours, preparing for operational tours, readiness and all the rest. It gets very, very busy. And when you're looking at sort of corporal level, you probably have been in that sort of that cyclone of all that consistency and happening all the time for roughly around 6 to 8 years around that gap. It can be different for other people, but that's kind of your average mark. And to be consistently on that wheel all the time, you can experience burnout. And some people just decide to, throw the towel in, decide, okay, service life isn't for me, I'm going to leave. I have discussed that on a previous video of looking at different courses within the army, to go around different parts of the army rather than just getting out. This is actually a normally good thing, not a big one, because one of the other things I discussed about was trying on selection, all the rest of it. Quite clearly, there's a high percentage of you that may not be up your street. Something like this, being an instructor, it's for everyone. So it's quite open to most people, and people are born instructors and born to be mentors, but other people, you can, with your life experience, adopt that role and take that role on very well. So that's the key thing there, is a bit of respite. It gives you respite from the field army, because whenever you're in an instructor role, and certainly with my experiences in 2013, I want to say, I went to ITC Catterick, so Infantry Training Centre Catterick, there's a corporal. And I'm now currently at Sandhurst as an instructor again. I'm both not currently now as an instructor, and back then you have a training program, which, if you just want to, it's like a school timetable basically. And as an instructor, it's so, like, I've genuinely will never see it in battalion, back in unit life in the field army, but a spreadsheet of exactly when you're away somewhere, what you're doing, what you're teaching, all the rest of it. So then when it comes to your own actual life outside the military, you can start to get a bit of stability there and plan things out. Okay, so it's the fear of unknown is taken away from you. Yes, there will always be sort of small fastballs, but they're certainly not like the fastballs that come flying at you whenever you're in the field army. And if you're someone who's spent time in the army and you've got a family and all the rest of it, it actually gives them a little bit of a respite as well, because you're around a lot more often, and you can sort of get that stability and plan a bit more stuff in and around the service life, which sometimes can be quite hard to do when you're in the actual field army itself. And then the other thing then, for more, maybe not people who need to have a little bit of respite and stuff, who've got families and stuff, is having an effect on the next generation. So like I discussed on a previous video there, if you do watch most of these videos, you may have experienced negative things throughout your time within the military, and you could argue that's for all three services. So and what you've done then is you've persevered through that experience and you've stayed in. But being an instructor now, you have the time now to go and learn from them negative experiences and promote a positive culture on the next generation. So as they grow up within the military, they will take your positive mentorship and teachings, and then they shouldn't apply that negative stuff as they progress through. So that's how we're constantly changing and developing as a force, because you get positive people into all these positions, get the quality, the next generation, and bring them up all the way through. And then if that happens and continues to happen and keeps leapfrogging each other throughout the years, you could naturally say we've always been in a better position. If you constantly look back, you're always sort of progressing. So it's a very, very positive experience. When I go back to Catterick wise, Catterick, it was a lot different in Catterick than it is here now where I am currently, because in Catterick you're in role a lot, because the person going to join ITC Catterick, they're joining to be a soldier. So you're teaching them all the skills and drills to be a soldier, and that is it. Whereas I'm here now in Sandhurst, you're obviously given the skills and drills to be a soldier and survive in the field, but then their main priority to be here is leadership. So they're learning to lead. So their natural progression while on this course will be from everything that's learned to be basic skills and drills, but then they're getting thrown into the end of being leadership and getting loads of problems, and they're taking up appointments within this course of their leadership. So they're going to be a platoon commander. Some of them might be OCs, so company commanders, sergeant majors, platoon sergeants, section commanders, 2 ICs as sections. So all them different sort of components that make up we're going to have to say like an infantry sort of company. I know it's not just infantry come to Sandhurst, but it's that sort of they use that sort of base to get people through. They take up all them roles, whereas in the other soldier academy, which is called now, even ITC and all the rest of it, they don't take up them appointments. Now, back when I was in ITC, we potentially would have give the private soldiers a shot at 2 IC, which is second in command of a section, if they're going like pretty fast, progressing through all the sort of content of the course, and just rewarding them a bit by giving them a shot at leadership. If they get it completely wrong, that doesn't go mark against them, because at the end of the day, they're not there to be trained as leaders. They're there to be trained as soldiers. They'll get their first shot at leadership courses when they arrive in their battalions, units, whatever it may be, on an IS-2IC cadre, which is an infantry, so infantry section 2IC, and then the rest of the corps and stuff will have all their different names and that for their first sort of course to get Lance Corporal. But certainly as an instructor in Catterick, you would have been there in this sort of, what is it called? It's like it's the cafe is run by the Salvation Army. No, it's not run by the Salvation Army. Who's it run by? WRVS. Can't remember. It's gone off the top of my head. Nice wee cafe down there in Catterick. Drop in the comment section if you know where it is. But all the families arrive. They release their sort of, now it's sons and daughters, but when I was there it was just sons. It was just lads that were allowed in infantry, and they're there in their suits and stuff, and you're taking them, and then 6 months later that's the end product. Now there you're in role quite a lot, because the soldier they're there to be trained as a soldier, so we need to facilitate being the section commander, the corporal. So you've always got all your kit on and you're going through everything with them, as well as instructing them. Now that's everything from flipping how to shave, how to wash yourself properly, how to pack all your kit, locker layouts, all the rest of it. Then your skill at arms, so teaching you how to use the weapon systems in all the drills. Then going on to the ranges and doing all the marksmanship stuff. Phys, slightly different now, but whatever phys and whatever your argument is for how phys looks like now, so physical activity, you're on that with them as well. Then you're going on to all your exercises and how it was sort of, now don't take this with a pinch of salt now, because the syllabus with ITC will have changed dramatically since I was there, but you're looking at your roughly from weeks 1 to 12ish was kind of like your basic training. And then you'd have like a long weekend to kind of roll into the next phase of the course, which then would become your phase 2, so your infantry specific training, because then all the corps and stuff who go to Purbright, Winchester, all them kind of places, they'll only do 14 weeks basic training. They'll have a massive big pass-off parade, and then they'll disappear to wherever their corps are to do their phase 2 training. Whereas the infantry, you just have that long weekend and then just transition in, and then they get their bigger pass-off parade at the 26th week mark or whatever it is, so like their 6th month part. So you're spending that all the way through there. And regards to here in Sandhurst, then you're not really in role as such, where I was like running around and crawling in section commander, because they would then do that because they're here to be leaders. They get taught how to do it in lessons and stuff, but then in Sandhurst, then you are, as a colour sergeant, you'll be just you and a platoon commander, as in an actual platoon commander who's just at the rank of a captain, would then run a full platoon. And then all the officer cadets, as which they're termed here before the commission, they will fulfil all the roles within the platoon. So they're obviously all the sort of soldiers as such, lance corporals, platoon sergeant, platoon commander, and they'll rotate through all them appointments to get assessed in their leadership and all the rest of it. This course here now, And that's where I had it in my head before I even came here to get all the experience and stuff. Because when you're watching attacks, you're like, oh, that's a bit. But this is not a tactics course. This is a leadership course. So it gets them a core good foundation in leadership and how to basically manage a platoon. But then all the officer cadets who commission to be officers, and then they're going into the infantry and they get spots in the infantry, they'll leave here and they'll go to IBS, so the Infantry Battle School in Brecon, and doing further course there. And then that's when they'll hyper focus in on the infantry tactics. And that's where, whenever I was looking at coming here as an instructor, I was kind of like, oh, about this. But now that I'm being here, I fully get it. This is a leadership course. The tactics business for infanteers comes when they arrive in Brecon. Now, reverting back to this sort of Catrick and stuff, it's clear, like I said before, they're just there to, as long as they can shoot, move, communicate, medicate correctly, by the end of the course, they're going to pass off, and you're there with them. And it's really rewarding to see a civilian walk through the gates and they're very quiet and timid and all the rest of it, and how their mannerisms are, to then seeing that sort of confident individual standing on the parade square, about to go on the parade square and off into the field army. And it's extremely rewarding feeling as an instructor to think that you've made that little mark on them, and you've given them all the tools and foundations to disappear off into the field army and hopefully have a really successful career and create positive sort of situations for as they progress through the ranks and all the rest of it. So that's something, if you're sick, if, like, I don't know, maybe you see certain people do certain things that you would want to do a certain way in your unit and stuff, don't moan about it and get yourself into these training establishments, and then have your effect and your mark on the next generation of the army. Because I will say that it is very rewarding, especially if you have people who are extremely motivated and they're extremely thankful for your instruction and all the rest of it. So I would 100% say it's good in that way, where you having your effect on the next generation. The next thing then is about yourself. And I feel like whenever you're maybe not so much in the corps, because there's a big wide place to jump in and around, but definitely in the infantry, within our own units, we'll have a niche within the infantry, or we'll have a certain role. And if you're spending sort of 9-10 years there without posting out, you can be very hyper focused in that particular role, which is extremely good to do. Don't get me wrong, because if you know your own specific role inside and out, you're going to absolutely just destroy it on operations and be extremely successful. But it's also good to come to these places, because straight away then you're not, as in I'm talking when you come here as an instructor and your cohort of instructors and stuff around you, you're suddenly now surrounded by people who are not your same cap badge, and particularly they're not your same trade or wherever it may be. And there's so much you can learn from all them people. And when you're spending 2 years, because that's what you'll do as an instructor, spending time with them kind of people and see how they go about business and stuff, you'll start to go, flip me, I've never thought of doing that way. That's really good. And you'll start to take little bits and pieces off different people and how they go about things. So whenever you arrive back at your unit, you're then more rounded as a leader, or as a mentor, an instructor, whatever it may be, and you can do things a different way whenever you arrive back in your unit. And it just creates a little bit more of, how would I say it? If you're stuck in a certain way, of delivering things, you'll bring that little bit of sort of finesse in how you deliver things, and then that will then help your own people when you arrive back at your unit on how you go about things. So it's really good for it. And the big thing there, we'll say, is when I said about coming here for a respite, doesn't matter if you've got a family or whatever it may be, when you come to the training establishment, you do get, although it can be busy at times, you do get keen and eager to get back to your battalion. And that's really good, because then if you do become in that sort of, things are starting to annoy you and stuff in the battalion, you're getting a bit sort of negative in a mindset way, when you come here, it is a refresh and a recharge to any training establishment. You punch back into your unit and you're good to go again, because the field army is extremely busy, and it doesn't really, I would argue, doesn't really matter what role or where you're sitting at within the field army, everyone is feeling the pinch. So when you come get your batteries recharged in training establishment, you're back in there, and then you're sort of raising the sort of troops up and stuff again, specifically if you're coming back from like the soldier academies and all the rest of it, because I have said this in previous videos, a junior NCO, so if you're not familiar with the British Army and all the rest of it, that's a sort of corporal, specifically if you come back from training establishment, They are a foundation, and definitely within the infantry, within the platoon and the companies and all the rest of it. If you have really good corporals and they're all working together within the different 3 platoons within the company, and they're all singing off the same song sheet, and they're friends, like, you know, they get on with each other. For like, you have a super company there. Like, and I haven't experienced that in a time a few years back when I was in a company where we're all like, everything was just getting behind each other. And like, when you have that strong foundation, that company is going to go places. Unfortunately, every 2 years postings happen, people move up and people promote and jobs change. So when you have a really good strong team, latch onto that, because it's only going to last for a year to 2, and then everyone will start moving around, and that's just the nature of the army itself. Right, so they're all the good things there, and definitely for being coming as an instructor. And I would say as well as people get thrown off by comments on sort of commentary on the sort of internet and stuff about, you know, British Army's gone woke and all the rest of it. And if you're someone who's sitting in your unit, or you're thinking about being an instructor and you're looking at all that kind of stuff and you go, oh, I don't really want to be a part of that, I can promise you now, it's not woke. There's some of the stuff I've seen people going through here where I am now currently, and the stuff they're getting up to on exercise and the weather conditions and all the rest of it, it's not woke. I am seeing people going through the grind, and there will obviously be like that small individuals who maybe don't progress as fast as others, but when you put the time and effort into them, you will see them then catch up with them kind of people. And definitely, I have the experience when I came back from Brecon there. Yes, I could sit and argue, yeah, it wasn't the same as whenever I was on my Brecon course, but people will always say it was always harder for them. But when I see them going through the stuff they went in through January and February, and the sleep deprivation, and living in a harbour area is hard work, and especially in the UK's climate, and people are just grinding and smiling and just getting through that proves to me like nothing's woke anymore. Like, people are just as tough and agile as what they were. Like, so I wouldn't be worried if you hear that kind of commentary when you're coming to a place like this. It's not. What I do notice as well is this would be more for if you're coming to be an instructor, not if you're going to be a student on either one of these places, is people like for the motivating factor now for people going through sort of the training regime for whatever it may be. What gets them going now is the why. So certainly back when I went through basic training and stuff, people were like, fuck, do this now and da-da-da, and you're just like, oh, I've done it, as like robots, and you're just through fear. Whereas now, as that effect doesn't work as much, and people will say, well, that's because of the generation are spoiled and all the rest of it. It's just different, and generations will always change, and the big thing that helps them is the why. Why are you doing it? If you explain why you're doing it, then they get in behind it. And I think that really gets down to, I'm monitoring my camera with it, so I can't hold it up. It comes down to your mobile phones. Like, even from, you can see that all the sort of people now going through school and stuff, we all have mobile phones, all connected to the internet. You don't need to have like a wired connection in your house anymore. Everyone has the answer to anything straight away, really fast in their pocket. And when younger, this is now me just giving my opinion, when younger kids and stuff now, and they're sort of, they're from 10 all the way up through their sort of secondary school age, I've got that tool. When they come into establishments like this and stuff, in any soldiering academy, that's now programmed into their mind. They need to know the why to something. So it's definitely we us and people who are veterans there, maybe we didn't need to know the why as much. We were just like, yes sir, no, 3 bags full sir, and just done it and stood there, and you would stand and do things and all the rest of it. But now, if you explain the why you're doing something and why it's important, why you need to clean your rifle, why you shouldn't sleep in the stag, so not just beasting someone, right, you're asleep, and then beasting them, explaining the whole sort of, right, you're now on sentry position, if you've now fallen asleep, that enemy is now snuck up, they've now got inside your defensive location, if you've now spent 4 to 5 days building, you now have to bug out, wreck a new location, and then you're now going to have a really negative effect on the rest of the battle group behind you. So if you're giving all the information and explaining that to people, they go, oh, right, yeah, roger, and then they get amongst it 100%. So it's just that's how the different approach you got to go. So that's a few different sort of points I want to make in the training establishment, because it's definitely, I will say here now, specific to Sandhurst, because you have to do a selection card to come here as an instructor, and it's just the only thing I noticed was I've seen sort of a decline in people going through. Now, got to speak with it with maturity, because people who are coming to Sandhurst to be an instructor, they will have done time in the army, yeah, so they're not sort of they're not sort of younger, like sort of in their sort of early 20s and all the rest of it. But definitely I would say get amongst it. Don't let courses throw you off. Like as soon as someone says a selection carter, then people like, oh, I don't know if going. It's like genuinely, if you've spent sort of like 10, 9 years, 12 years in the army, whatever it may be, you will breeze it. Like the experiences that you would have had in the army up to this date will get you through it. And I would certainly say that's the same. We've heard rumours, not so much as selection courses, but if you're going to go posting to Soldier Academy, when I say Soldier Academy, that's something that sort of packages over ITC, Catterick, Winchester, Purbright, all them sort of basic training areas. It would be a carter as such, not so much selection, but to give you all the skills and drills enhanced to be as an instructor. So it polishes you off to go there. Because definitely, when I was in the army, when I was like younger, people going to ITC Catterick like were they were really wanting, they were like trying to like fight with each other to get there, and they were very well rounded. And I think just with the army as well, and that's another point actually, what may also throw people off going to be an instructor is the fear of missing out. With us being so busy, there's a lot of you out there keen and love operations and love going away all the time, and I commend you for that, because that's the type of soldier that we want to serve. So you will have this fear in your mind going, oh, I seen the FOE in the battalion and I really want to go on that op, and if I go there I'm going to be, and I completely get it. There is never a right time to come to a training establishment. You'll never be able to program it correctly, where you'll come to a training establishment and your battalion will be like not doing much. So then you get to come here, do your experience in your in the instruction role, and get back to the battalion again quickly before they deploy again. That you're never going to find a time for that. So and I get you, because I'm here now. This is now my 8th month now. I came here September 24, and my battalion is currently away in 2 different operations. So as one battalion, they're gone in 2 operations. So there's like a skeleton crews left back where they're posted. And some of the stuff they're getting up to worldwide, I'm just sitting here with itchy feet because I'm texting some of my mates and stuff, and just like, oh. And when you're like teaching rifle lesson 1, you can get a bit jittery. But you got to just remember, right, getting these folk ready for the field army, and I will get back to that. And reverting back to my very first point I made about the respite, it's important whenever you're progressing through your army career, and this is all you out there that want to make it a career and stay a little bit longer. Sometimes you got to think about working smart and not hard. Sometimes, so when you come to training establishments for a good reason, you're going to make a positive effect on the next generation, have your spin on things, anything that you've experienced negatively, make sure you don't do that. And then whenever they progress further into the army, they will not then, become into that negative person who you may have served under. And then the other thing is, then do not worry about what your battalion unit are up to. You will go back, and there will be a time when you get back to battalion, you'll have spent back a year or 2 back to battalion going, flip me, remember that like flipping training program I had, and I could plan the life out and all the rest of it. So you got to be really strategic with what you do if you're with your army career, if you're going to go and look at it and progressing through a longer career, if that's up your street. So yeah, that's my third thoughts on coming to a training establishment. 100% get amongst it. If you're in and around, even if you're a Lance Corporal now, start thinking about it now. Start doing little bits of courses that's going to enhance your method of instruction, get some and all the rest of it. Your experience, do not underestimate your experience within the military. And some people could sit there and say, well, I've never been on fighting operations or on all the rest of it. What have I got to bring to the party? It's not just all about that. It's about all the different experiences that you've had within the military. So like I'm saying, your negative stuff in exercise, how people have treated people in a certain way, take all that on board and then deliver that to the new generation, so they've got a nice white blank canvas to progress with off into the military. So that's that. I'd interested to know specifically if you're a veteran, or if you wanted to, you don't even have to say in the comments if you're currently serving, but just if you've ever had, what's your experiences of potentially going through the training regime, regards to the basic training and all the rest of it before you actually get into the field army, or your experiences indeed if you were an instructor within your time in the military, and just it'd be interesting to know of how you felt whenever you were in that time, and did you enjoy it whenever you done it, whenever it was. Thanks very much for joining me, and I will see you again on the next video. See you then.